Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is The Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is The Big Five? That's what The Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
Work.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
one of the hottest.
Hello, and welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the spiciest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they'd transpired today? I'm your co-host, Sarah Sahagian.
And I'm your other co-host, Sadaf Hassan. And today we are talking about a woman whose trajectory I feel like I grew up with. If you're a millennial, you probably agree. Her public image has somehow gone from a pair of magical jeans to the Upper East Side to Taylor Swift to perhaps the most litigated movie press tour of all time. We are talking Blake Lively. I think she's a fascinating case because for the longest time, she had one of the most enviable brands in Hollywood. She was a classic starlet, pretty squeaky clean. She married Ryan Reynolds, also like probably the squeakiest, cleanest guy in Hollywood. And for years, they were basically the internet's favorite hot married couple who lovingly trolled each other on Instagram. They were adorable. But in the last year, Blake has arguably gone through one of the wildest celebrity image reversals we have seen in recent memory, I think anyway. But Sarah, tell me your take. Talk to me about how you were first introduced to Blake. Has your perception of her changed over the years?
I'm pretty sure I'm a Blake completist.
Ooh.
I think I've seen everything. Not that I'm like a huge fan, but I think I've seen everything. I think I know her oeuvre better than almost anyone's.
Have you seen Accepted?
No.
Oh, that's the Justin Long movie.
I have not seen that.
She's got a few holes.
Is it good?
You know, it is what it is. It's one of those Justin Long comedies. It was fun. It was fine.
I'm not a completist then. I'm sorry.
You're almost there, and I think I'm almost there too.
I mean, I'm talking big, but no, I'm not a completist. Okay, so I first discovered her, I think, probably in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. She was the character I was least interested in that movie. I have to say, I found her the least charismatic performer. I thought, okay, this girl's super pretty. I don't know how talented she is. And then I watched her in Gossip Girl, and my feelings about her talent didn't really change. However, having rewatched Gossip Girl for personal and professional reasons in my adulthood, I actually think the show misused her, and she has skills, but the show just didn't care about what her skills were because they just got sick of writing for her. She can be funny. She has a dry humor. She's really funny in kind of a Jenna Fisher way, where like when people malign her or misuse her or are mean to her, she's really good with the deadpan kind of responses. I really quite like that. I think it's very funny. And obviously she's more conventionally glamorous looking than Jenna Fisher, so it doesn't necessarily play well. I think the problem is she's too good looking for the limited skills she has as a performer. She can't lean into those. What about you?
I actually think that's so well put and perfectly deduces what her struggle is, because I do think she's had a hard time figuring out what box she fits in perfectly. And when you have long blonde hair, people automatically slot you into the starlet, like I mentioned before, and like the Serena van der Woodsons, right? So I don't know that she necessarily suits that. I actually think we've talked about this many times on the show, but she suits playing darker roles, maybe something like a comedic villain a la Simple Favor, which you and I enjoyed. Yeah, I think she needs to lean in that direction, but she hasn't found a lot of those opportunities. I hope she does in the future. But my perception has definitely changed over time, because I really enjoyed her when I was younger. I loved Sisterhood. I think I watched it 100 times. I loved all 4 girls. I wanted to be in the Sisterhood. I wanted a pair of matching jeans with my friends. And I thought she was cute. I actually did like her storyline. But I did find, like, as she's gone through her filmography over the years, she doesn't grip me as a lot of the other women in that cast. She's not an American Ferrera. She's not a Amber Tamblyn. Alexis Bledel definitely went off in a whole other direction in the Handmaid's Tale era. So I think with Blake, it's interesting because she's had kind of the loudest career. But again, I don't think she's really found her footing with every decision that she's made. And then, even though I was a fan for quite a bit of time, I think it's dissipated a little for me over the years. And that might just be because she's so overexposed, I think, anyway.
Is she overexposed? It's funny because I agree, but she doesn't work that much. Looking at her IMDb, this woman takes long breaks.
She does because she's also had 4 children, and I am impressed at the way she's done it because she has had a kid every couple of years, gets a bit of work in between. Ryan is active throughout, as we know, especially in Canada.
Male privilege.
But she's had her multiple product lines. We'll get into that. And she's been in the press. She's always in the press. She goes to red carpet. So we're going to get into that. Okay, let's jump in. So Blake was born in LA in 1987. She's a California baby. She was raised very much in the industry. Her dad, Ernie Lively, was an actor and an acting coach. Her mom, Elaine, worked in talent management. And if you don't know her siblings by name, you may know them by face. So her sister is Robin Lively, who is infamous for Teen Witch. If you haven't seen Teen Witch, go watch it. I'm pretty sure it's on Tubi for free. And her brother, Eric Lively, who I think I've seen 100 different things over the years. Again, Google them. You know them. You've seen them. Blake has said that when she was little, her parents would take her with them to acting classes rather than leave her with the babysitter. But she apparently didn't initially even want to be an actor. She wanted to go to Stanford. And now, some of you might roll your eyes hearing this, but I want to tell you, Sarah's rolling her eyes. She was an overachiever, Sarah. So in high school, she was on the championship choir team. She was class president. She was a cheerleader. She did well in class. And you know what's interesting to me? This adds up with the public image that she was painting over the years, right? Of like all-American, excels, does it pretty effortlessly. I think this is a little bit of that. You don't agree?
I mean, okay. Well, being class president, getting 17-year-olds to vote for you, that just means you're popular, right?
True.
Like, that's not a political achievement, right? Like, she's not Hillary Clinton. Then the cheerleader thing, yeah, I think she'd be good at that. She's hot. And then show choir, she has said she wasn't good at it, but had a good performance face, so they would put her in the front.
Wow.
Yeah. And, looksism exists even in show choir. So I don't know. It's also like, was this a blue ribbon school? How high achieving and competitive was the school? I just really don't see her this way. I know I'm being catty. I just don't see her this way.
That's fair. She went to Burbank High School. So Sarah, please
I'll look at the ranking later.
No, yeah. Okay, well, listen, point taken. I get it. Her older brother, Eric, was the one who was actually encouraging her this whole time to start auditioning. Her family seemed very desperate to keep all the kids in the business, which I find fascinating. They were like, no, Stanford, forget about it. Academic achievements? No. Why would you bother with that? When she was about 15, Eric, apparently, she's told the story a few times, he took her traveling through Europe and sat her down and asked her, what are you doing with your life? Which I feel like is a wild conversation to have with a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, so she's doing algebra. Yes, she's studying. She's in math class.
Being a child. He took her to Europe by himself, or were they there as a family? I'm a little bit concerned about letting Eric, who's a young adult, supervise a 15-year-old on his own.
I think he was in his 20s at this point. Her siblings were a lot older than her. And then a lot of them were step siblings or half siblings. So he was in his 20s and they went on a sibling trip together, which I actually think is pretty cute. But he definitely had a goal, which is fascinating. And hey, it worked because he started encouraging agents to meet with her. And eventually she went on full-on auditions. And in 2005, she got the role that launched everything as Bridget Freeland in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. She was only 17 filming that movie. It's where she became close friends with a beautiful trio, I think. Alexis Bledel, America Ferrera, and Amber Tamblyn. Then she did, as I mentioned before, Accepted with Justin Long and Jonah Hill. other few smaller movies followed, like Elvis and Annabelle, and eventually a second Sisterhood movie. We're still waiting on a third. Fingers crossed. But the thing that completely changed her life comes in 2007, because that is when she becomes, dun dun dun, Serena van der Woodsen. Now, Sarah, tell me, were you a Sisterhood fan? Do you feel like Blake inherited something from her family? If it's not talent, is it charm? Is it a ease in the industry? What do you think she picked up?
She seems very natural on camera, not as in a natural actor. She just seems comfortable there. She's beautiful, so that helps in Hollywood. She definitely has the face for Hollywood and the weirdly gorgeous figure. Like it doesn't even feel like you should have those proportions. If she were a better actress, she definitely has the look of a Barbie. She could have been Barbie. She doesn't have the range to play that part. But if I had to pick an actress I felt looked most the part, I actually think I would pick Blake Lively. But is she talented? I mean, I do actually think she has comedic talent. It just wasn't used at all on Gossip Girl, which is why it seemed like by the end, the writers hated her. Like it seemed like they detested her. I don't know if that's true. That's the impression I got from watching the show.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't know what to do with her. And I do feel like that's what's happening with a lot of the roles she takes over the years, right? Like even with Green Lantern, I don't think she's the type to be like a Bond girl or like even Lady Deadpool, which is what she was slated to do eventually. And she did the voice of in Ryan's movies. But I think she is actually perfect for something a little narrower and more interesting, as we said before. But I think it's, as you're pointing out, hard for people to envision that when you look like the all-American woman that you are. And you are clearly blinded by that. I have been blinded by that. So it's tough. Yeah, I am forever just fascinated that her family was so keen to have her in the industry. Eric in particular seemed like this was weirdly a mission he was obsessed with.
Is he her manager or something now? Like, does he get a cut?
No. And for her to be 17 years old filming that movie is so young. Like she was a fair bit younger than the other girls. I think it's too young personally. Like I can't imagine wanting my kid at that age to be on a movie set and you're just figuring yourself out. And you can tell she's figuring herself out and it's a little awkward in her body. It works because that's also the character she's playing. But then also not long after that, and some of you are going to hate me for even mentioning this, but I'm going to throw it out there. She clearly had a nose job. And I miss that old face she had in Sisterhood because there was something sweeter about it. It's kind of like when some actors have their old teeth, you know? Like I love seeing Kirsten Dunst's snaggletooth. I think it's charming. And so I missed that a little bit with Blake, but now she looks even more Barbie-like since then. And I think she got that work done not long after that movie, which is very young.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because the character she played is such a hypersexual character. And it's not unrealistic for that age group to be figuring out your sexuality when you are 17, but to be playing someone who's figuring out their sexuality when you're 17 is different. Like Natalie Portman talks about that, about figuring out your sexuality while doing sexual things on set. And that would be weird, right? That's why she didn't do sex scenes until she was older, which was very smart, but her parents weren't stage parents in the same way. So I feel like they wouldn't just say, just read the script or read the lines, right? They'd be like, whatever makes you happy, sweetie. It seems like Blake's family just wanted her to succeed at all costs. Am I fair in saying that?
I feel like that. That's the vibe that I get. I think they liked the idea of being a Hollywood family. Are they the Barrymores? No, but they're definitely recognizable. Blake's definitely the most successful one. But yeah, it almost feels like it doesn't matter what else she would have wanted to do. They were going to make sure that this happened for her. And hey, by the way, I'm sure her name helped her get in the door a lot of the time. Her brother just being able to get her an agent and help her get auditions is not something a lot of actors could get. So, you know, something to be said for that. Okay, Gossip Girl, let's get into it. I genuinely think it's hard to explain to someone younger how culturally dominant this show was. Like, if we're looking at Off Campus today, I suppose maybe that's the best comparison, or Summer I Turned Pretty, when that was in its big heyday. Listen, there was the headbands, the colored tights, oh, the gorgeous outfits, the ensembles. Oh, my Lord.
The fashion was amazing. That's our fashion show, right? Sex and the City was for Gen X. Millennials had Gossip Girl.
absolutely. Blake was cast as Serena Vanderwoodson, the beautiful, chaotic Upper East Side golden girl, returning mysteriously to Manhattan after disappearing to boarding school. Apparently, fans of Sisterhood were already suggesting Blake online for the role, and casting director David Rappaport later talked about how she had exactly the kind of approachable glamour they needed, which I think is a really good way to describe her. Yeah, the show premiered in 2007. It ran for 6 seasons. Listen, let me say, started off really well, real nosedive towards the end. Wrapped in 2012. It was very clear, let's put it this way, towards the end that a lot of the actors were ready to go. And I think the writers were just having a little too much fun behind the scenes. If you haven't watched it, you'll know what we're talking about. Go get into it. Serena becomes one of the defining fashion characters of that era. There was a lot of talk about, are you a Serena or are you a Blair? Not just in terms of personality, but fashion, because Blair was definitely a little more sophisticated, right? More mature. Serena had the more kind of fun, like the tiniest dash of a little bit of hipster in there. It was fun to see the way that they would play with their school uniforms. I loved that. Now, Blake also became a fashion celebrity in her own right during this period. One of the things, and it's interesting too, because Leighton Meester, who played Blair, did not. And I think Leighton's even talked about this. Like, she wasn't as caught up in the fashion side of it, didn't really take an interest in it. Blake did, and I think it was really smart because I think it helped catapult her in a way where people were taking notice for something else, right? And one of the things that becomes central to her mythology is that she doesn't use a stylist. I was obsessed with this fact for so long because, especially for a woman of her age at that time, none of these kids were not using a stylist, right?
Not everyone believes that. I've actually heard people who work in fashion who say that this is BS and that they think that at least she was getting consultations. Like, maybe she wasn't working with a specific stylist every time, right? Because, Mindy Kaling has a relationship with Jessica Mulroney, and like a lot of people were using Rachel Zoe at the time. So maybe she wasn't that close with a stylist, but most people I've spoken to in fashion believe she had some consultants.
Yeah, I can imagine definitely some consultations because she's also got all these tight relationships with so many designers, including Christian Dior, long-time great connections. I'm going to push back, though. I'm going to say she never really had a stylist, even low-key. I believe she was in it on her own because even now, if you look back at some of her choices, some of them are kind of goofy, but I like the confidence she had. And it did seem like this is something she actually takes an interest in. I don't know. I believed it. I bought it. And I remember being in awe of that, I know now, like over the past year, her style has gotten really questionable. We'll dig into maybe why that's happening. But I do think for a lot of that era, it was really damn impressive, especially every time she hit a Met Gala red carpet. Knowing that she did all of that herself, like from the jewelry to the bag to the shoes. I don't know. I was fascinated. But you're right. She probably did have consultants. I don't think that counts, Sarah. I'm going to say that.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. I liked a lot of her clothes, not on the show. On the show, I don't understand how they chose to dress her. I thought she looked ridiculous. And I understand they were trying to create a contrast. And Blair did not dress how any teenager dresses. She dresses how the rich mothers of rich teenagers wish their daughters would dress. Like, I remember my mother seeing clips of the show. She never watched the whole thing. And like looking at Blair and being like, that's a well-dressed young woman. That was exactly what she wanted me to wear at that age. And I didn't. Like, some of her outfits were so improbable. Like, there's a famous scene where she and Chuck are making out and she's wearing this adorable blue sailor suit that you would never wear to hook up with a teenage guy. You would just never put that on if you were about to have sex with someone.
But then, to be fair, Chuck was always in like 3-piece suits and like an ascot. It's like, it's ludicrous.
Exactly. So maybe those two, just that's how they bonded. I don't know. But yes, I mean, I guess fashion wise would prefer to have been a Blair, but I was too busty for all of her outfits.
Yeah.
So, I had to be more of a Serena.
I know, I hear you. I felt like Blair definitely had, oh my God, way better. Let's put it this way, like a Pinterest mood board if I was pulling from it. But I felt like at the time, Blake suited who I was more. And because I watched the show with my sister and we always like to be at odds in this kind of fun way, we'd be like, oh, well, I'm the Serena and my sister's the Blair, which is fit better. So, it was fun. Like, even that was fun. Like, thinking about who you were each season, choosing your favorite outfits outfits each time. Blake's hair was always my favorite thing too, because it was so thick and luxurious. And I didn't realize at the time a lot of it was probably extensions. I don't think a lot of us did.
I don't think she'd admit to that. Does she admit to using extensions?
I don't know that she has. I mean, listen, I think even regardless of the extensions, she's always had good hair. If you watch some of her pre-Gossip Girl work,
she has great hair.
She's got really good hair. But with extensions, gosh, what a beauty. What a beauty.
She's like a lioness, right? I mean, it didn't even seem human. Yes, very, very beautiful in this almost exaggerated way that doesn't feel like a real person. If Andy Warhol were still alive today, he would love using her as his muse. Like, I actually do believe that. I think she has this look that's so Hollywood, more so than her talent is so Hollywood. But also Leighton was really beautiful too. And one thing that they did well with the casting was, while they were both thin white girls, otherwise they did look very different. They were attractive in very different ways. Leighton Meester really was more of the Audrey Hepburn type, whereas Blake Lively really was more of a Marilyn Monroe. So they did provide some contrast, and which I thought was smart, because it explained why they weren't usually, with the exception of Nate, kind of competing for the same guys, because they just appealed to such different guys. Well, I guess also Dan, but Dan never liked Serena, and the show knows that.
Well, this is the interesting thing, is I think we don't have that as much now. I feel like sort of the blonde versus brunette in current YA TV. Like, I think a lot of them now, it's a little more neutral, which I think is good technically, but it was really fun in the 00s, the 90s. Like, I loved that. Even to the point where I remember with the Gossip Girl book fans, because I hadn't read the books at the time, I remember there was so much fury over like Leighton, because Leighton's actually a blonde. So she dyed her hair brown for the role. There was so much fury over these choices, and then Blake being cast and who was going to fill these roles. It's so fun. It's always just so fun. But yeah, I think Blake pleased quite a lot of people, actually, at least in the beginning, because they were fan casting her. Not everybody felt the same way as the show went on, but I feel like that happens regardless of what you're casting. I always think of Twilight and how heated people got over the casting for that. Like,
and that
was
casting was quite
bonkers.
good, though. That was quite good casting. I actually have to say, in this era, the casting was much better. The people who were doing casting, I think it's a golden age of casting for whatever reason, especially for youth-driven projects. I mean, I know that Gossip Girl in particular took casting very seriously, because Ed Westwick almost didn't get his visa. And then this is a story, even though he's been canceled, this is a story that's very interesting if you're from Toronto. Basically, the CW kept saying, like, recast, like, you have to. And the producers didn't want to. And so the day before filming, like, Hail Mary, they're like, you need to get a work visa. They sent him to Toronto to get his work visa. And they introduced him to like some sort of fixer. And I really want to know who this person is. And the fixer at the embassy, like, just walked to the front of the line, skipped the line, talked to somebody, charmed someone, and then Ed Westwood got his visa and flew to New York, like, the day before.
I love it. We got to track that guy down and bring him on the read.
I know. I really want to know who this is. So if anybody listening has any intel, if you know who this Hollywood fixer who lives in Toronto is, please find us. We'll keep his identity secret. We just want to know him. We just want to meet him.
Absolutely. He's living in the sewers somewhere. Now, Sarah makes a good point, because the casting was so damn good on Gossip Girl that on-screen love became off-screen love. So Blake, who's playing Serena, fell in love with Penn Badgley, who's playing Dan Humphrey. And again, as a girl watching this, could I have been more obsessed with this? Like, I was so happy about it. I loved it. You always want those characters that you love in a movie or a TV show to be in love together off-screen. I still do in my 30s. And so I loved this news. And this was when I was really getting into online gossip blogs, and the paparazzi shots were just endless, because they'd be filming in New York. They were so accessible. I remember friends visiting New York trying to track them down. Like, it was just so fun. They seemed like an odd match, because I think Penn at the time was really trying to build up this idea of him being very edgy and emo. And then you've got Blake, who's got like her little tiny dog and who's got the long blonde hair. She's in giant heels all the time. It was opposites in visuals anyway. I think Penn is less edgy than he likes to believe that he is. I thought they were very cute together. They were linked around 2007. They went public in 2008 and they broke up in 2010, but continued working together after that. I believe they were also probably on and off for a bit after that. I don't know know how you...
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there were some shots of them. And I also feel like, how the hell do you keep recording a show like this where you're in love on screen and then fight that urge? I don't know how they might have done. Maybe they hooked up a couple times. I don't know. Maybe I just want to believe that. But they handled it so discreetly, apparently, that people on the show didn't even realize that they'd split. Can you imagine, though, what it must have been like shooting that final wedding scene for them all those years later at the very end? It must have been brutal. It didn't even make sense for the characters. So, like, you know.
No, first of all, why are they getting married in a living room? That's a big question.
And for those people, come on.
Why isn't Dan's mother there? That's another big question. I have many questions about this final wedding scene. It's many questions. It's terrible. It makes no sense that they would end up together. Also, he's abusive. Dan is abusive, right? He cyberbullies the hottest girls in school until they will sleep with him, right? And the only one in the finale before they do the time jump who understands this is Blair. And she's just like, wait, we should not forgive him. He cyberbullied all of us. I slept with this person, but now that I know this, it's not consensual. It almost feels like assault, like this is the subtext, right? Like, so gross. And everyone else is like, shut up, Blair. It's fine.
Yeah. If you're not picking up on it and you didn't watch the show, spoiler alert, Penn is revealed to be Gossip Girl, which is bonkers. It doesn't make sense. It's one of the most ludicrous endings of any TV show in history. It didn't make sense. Even Penn said this was foolish. I love hearing him talk about being Gossip Girl. It's so funny. Well, yeah. And I think also about halfway through the series, we see Dan pair up with Blair. And I loved that match much more because those two actors had an unbelievable chemistry. Unbelievable. And I don't know how they didn't date, which they insist they haven't.
I don't think they have. They're still friends. And they still, you can listen to the two of them on Penn's podcast, which we name drop all the time. Honestly, he should give us money.
Yeah, Podcrushed.
Podcrushed. And she's been on twice. She was on the first episode and the last episode. I think they are actually good friends. I also think she was on the last episode because I think they both want to do a Gossip Girl reboot and get paid tons of money.
I love this conspiracy that you have, and I hope it's true. I feel like I don't know if Dan would do it. I don't know if Penn would do it. I would love to see that.
He has so many kids. He has to do it.
He's got a lot of
for
children.
the money.
It's true. It's true. He's leaning into his CW energy, which I appreciate. But yeah, I agree. I think they were so wonderful together, and the show still fought that energy and decided to keep him with Blake see, I'm mixing up their names even. I can't keep track. Anyway.
Here's my question.
Yes.
Okay. This is a big question about Blake and Penn. I believe they were dating. I've seen the pictures of them. If they were dating, why did they have no sexual chemistry on screen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think they had no sexual chemistry. You know what? I think they were in a show of beautiful people, many of whom had chemistry that was off the charts. They just didn't chart compared to those people. Like Leighton Meester, who has sexual chemistry with everyone, right? Like it was intense with Ed Westwick, with Sebastian Stan, and again with Penn. Even with, she even had really good sexual chemistry with Blake. Like there were so many scenes where I was like, just kiss, girls. Just kiss. Please give it to me.
They would have today. They would have ended up together today, but the show, so many things would be different about the show today. But anyway, yeah, Leighton can have chemistry with anyone, though.
She can, even a banana.
Really?
I'm so attracted to her myself. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what it is. That's my theory, Sarah, that theirs just didn't compare to the others. I do think they had a bit. Maybe it's wishful thinking because I liked the idea of them together. But yeah, it's always interesting when you're a couple and the chemistry is not translating on screen because very often we get so much chemistry on screen and then they don't end up a couple in real life. And my theory is always, well, they've definitely hooked up. They had to have. How could you resist?
Okay, so my other thing I wanted to point out is that Blake can have chemistry. She's not good at romantic or sexual chemistry, but actually, I feel like on Gossip Girl, she had great chemistry with both of her brothers. She and Eric were good at bantering, and she had amazing sister chemistry with Ed Westwick. That actually, I think, was the thing that really, in my opinion, made that character evolve in people's eyes when you kind of forgot he was a rapist in season 1. Yes, he loves Blair, but he's really terrible to Blair, so that doesn't redeem him. He's an amazing brother to Serena. You could do a supercut of her just screaming, "Call Chuck," when she gets into trouble, and he's always there. He's a fantastic brother, and they have fun sibling banter. Like there's one episode where he steals her cell phone to get Blair's number to see if she's changed it. They do fun sibling stuff, and she's very good at pretending like she's being annoyed by her brother and kind of like ribbing him. Like she's very, very good at that. So I think she just isn't a romantic lead. I think that's just a fact about her and her abilities as an actor.
You know, I never thought about it. And I think you are so right, Sarah. Thank you for reminding me of all that good sibling action that we did get in the show. Yeah, that was really fun. You know, it's true because even in her other work, I don't feel convinced when she's got another love interest. Like I've just never really bought it. But let me hit you with an interesting counterpoint, because as I just mentioned, she had great sexual chemistry with Leighton. In A Simple Favor, she has good sexual chemistry with Anna Kendrick. I think she's got a really delicious lesbian energy. And that's when I am really convinced. And I'm very open to her playing some queer characters if she'd be interested in that. You know, bait me, tease me. I'd love to see it. I'm so open to that, Blake, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are. But oddly enough, like, and I don't know what that's tapping into, but I do think there's a part of her that's still reserved when it comes to trying to be romantic on screen. Like she does still seem like she's holding back a little. And I wonder if it's that. And you know what else is interesting? There was no sexual chemistry between her and Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern, which is an awful movie. And we will get into it shortly, but they also don't quite have that. And then even when they're presenting in public, like on Instagram or in a paparazzi shot, it's so squeaky clean that it's not like I can't really be like those two fuck, you know, like John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. We use them as an example a lot because they also kind of have that goofy energy, right? Those two fuck, like I can see it. With these two, I don't know. I mean, I know they do. They've got a lot of kids and they're beautiful. They love each other. I do believe that, but it's just, they don't have that chemistry crackling off them.
No, they've always seemed, even when they were newly together, like they'd been married for 15 years. And people who've been married for 15 years often have that kind of goofy chemistry. And I'm sure, yes, people who've been married for 15 years usually still sleep together. The research shows that. But it's not as hot and heavy, right? There's not constant PDA. You're not proving anything. You've proved things by staying in the relationship for a decade and a half. That's how you've proved it. And so in some ways, I actually appreciated that report because it seemed like they really were committed and in it for the long haul. They weren't just in lust. They actually did love and respect each other. So I felt like that made me think the relationship was fairly healthy and strong. But you're right. They never seemed to have a honeymoon period. The first few years of the relationship didn't seem like they couldn't wait to be alone and rip each other's clothes off. You know?
Exactly. Okay, well, let's get into it more now that we're on it. So while she's doing Gossip Girl, Blake is also trying very deliberately to build a film career, which is smart. Really, all of them should have been doing that. She's had a pretty interesting filmography. So she played a very different, let's say much grittier character in Ben Affleck's The Town in 2010. I don't think she was very effective at it. And unfortunately, she did get a lot of critique for it. And then, of course, there's Green Lantern, which is supposed to be a big blockbuster superhero movie. It was very bad, very, very bad. Like it felt like a parody of a parody. But it's where she meets Ryan Reynolds, her eventual husband. He is playing Green Lantern. Technically, they met while making the movie in 2010. Now, at that point, Blake was still with Penn Badgley and Ryan was actually married to Scarlett Johansson. Yep. They have always said they were just friends during filming. Blake and Penn split in 2010 and Ryan and Scarlett announced their separation later that year. Now, before we get into the drama there, because I want to ask you about this, Sarah, Blake briefly enters one of the most elite clubs in Hollywood history before she really gets together with Ryan. She gets into the women who have dated Leonardo DiCaprio club. She and Leo dated for about 5 months in 2011. Now, the reason this is so funny to me is that they were everywhere, though. You know, like there are really cute, actually, endless paparazzi shots of them together. She's so adorable. And in all of them, I'm like, him, girl, you could probably be with anybody, him. But I get it because, God, weren't we all big Leo fans when we were younger? I can't help but imagine this was like her childhood crush and she got to be together with him for a while. She's never really talked about it and I wish she would because I want to know about it so badly. Now, 5 months in Leo DiCaprio years is also practically a golden annicversary.
Yeah,
so, like,
absolutely.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Their reps actually publicly confirmed the breakup. That was in October 2011. I remember they even went grocery shopping together and the paparazzi got into the grocery store. Do you remember that?
She kind of domesticated him. I'm convinced she ended the relationship. And I think she could have married him. I think he could have been Warren Beatty and she could have been his Annette Bening if she wanted to commit to him, right? I think he was smitten. He reenacted Romeo and Juliet in Verona for her.
I know.
Right? He was courting her in a way he doesn't normally. He went to a grocery store. Had he ever been to a grocery store before? I doubt it. That's how much he loved this girl. I think he just thought that she was perfect. And I really think he would have spent an entire lifetime with her and had a million babies with her. But, she wasn't feeling it. He is a little creepy. And good for her that she noticed that, because I think the rest of the world hadn't woken up to that fact yet. So that makes me think that she's a pretty good judge of character.
Well, it's funny because you and I have absolutely nothing to base these thoughts on. And I totally agree with you. I don't know what it is. I completely agree with you. And I've thought this all these years, and this is why we're friends, even though we disagree a lot, because nobody else thinks this. I, for some reason, also felt she ended it. And part of the reason is because she got together with Ryan soon after. Like, I felt like Ryan is who she really wanted. And then Leo was like this sort of drive-by. And I'm so into this because I love the idea of Leo getting dumped by one of his young women, because I feel like he's on this constant spree where he just gets to choose girl after girl after girl. So let's get back into the Ryan bit. So he and Blake had remained friends after Green Lantern. They eventually went on a double date together. They've told the story a few times. I think it's pretty cute. They were on a double date where they were actually with other people. Ryan said it was really awkward for the other two people because he and Blake were basically hitting it off the entire time. Fireworks were going off between them. Obviously, super adorable unless you were the other two people. Now, they started dating in 2011. So remember, she broke up with Leo in October of 2011. So that gives them about 2 months. And I think good on you, Blake. Get that Ryan Reynolds D. Squeeze it in where you can. And then they got married the very next year. So they got married in 2012. I think they were really feeling each other for some time. Today, they've got 4 extremely cute kids with blonde curls. They look like little Blake clones. Now, over the years, they've also built a very public relationship, so a brand, where they are constantly roasting each other online. They show up for each other's projects all the time. They have become pretty genuinely beloved, and I think they are constantly on like every listicle about the cutest or strongest Hollywood couples. Now, things eventually did take a sharp turn. There's going to be a few sharp turns, but let's start with the first one. Now, when the pair got married in 2012, they got married at Boone Hall Plantation in South Carolina. Now, that is a former plantation where enslaved people lived and worked. Around the time of Black Lives Matter, plantation weddings were sort of resurfacing as an online discussion and why they're problematic. And these two received a ton of backlash for their venue. Now, they did make an apology and also a $200,000 donation to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, which is great. But, it all still feels a bit greasy. And I do think that that choice has haunted them since then, because I think that the public feeling towards them shifted a little bit. Before this, people were really big fans of them. It was like they could do no wrong. And then this came out and things really took a turn after that, a little bit like a domino effect. Before we get deeper into it, Sarah, I know you feel there was some sketchiness in the way they got together. Tell me about it.
Okay. I don't for a second believe that there was absolutely no overlap. There was overlap with at least one of the relationships, if not both, especially if you're getting married that soon, right? That soon. And she's young too at this point, right? It's not like she needs to get married because she wants the 4 kids and has to get started as soon as possible, right? She actually had time, even for 4 children, lots of time.
She was in her early 20s, yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I know Ryan likes them young because Scarlett was also in her early 20s when he married her. So
he's got his own sketchy history. And to learn more, listen to our episode on Ryan Reynolds, linked in the show notes.
Absolutely. He has a pattern. There was definitely overlap. I think for sure he cheated on Scarlett. I don't think she necessarily cheated on Penn. And if they were together, I think they were probably on the rocks and it was probably volatile. Also, they were so young. It doesn't seem like Penn Badgley bears her any ill will. He is able to speak about her very politely. It seems like they're fine and they continued working together, right? So I think everything is okay there. So even if there was overlap, I think probably if there was, he was relieved, if anything, and was like, yeah, you're right. It's not working out. But I do believe that there was at least an emotional affair when Ryan was married to Scarlett. Ryan's marriage with Scarlett, if you've read the coverage of it, it was a little bit toxic. There are stories of him yelling at her in the street when she was quite young and they were dating. It never sat right with me. And Scarlett Johansson, also not perfect, has made mistakes, but she was very young and he was a lot older when she met him. And clearly she was not ready to be married.
Yeah, and she's been really diplomatic, but I feel like she's implied that he wasn't great. You know, let me throw an allegedly in here because we obviously don't know. And the emphasis is heavily on implied.
Yeah. Very implied.
By the way, side note, he also never had sexual chemistry with Scarlett. Scarlett, who has sexual chemistry also with everyone. It's odd. Anyway, but again, you know, when you have a squeaky clean reputation, that tends to be the consequence. I'm with you. I think there was an emotional affair at the very least, and maybe they didn't even realize it. And maybe that's also me loving the rom-com energy of these two, maybe being quietly in love with each other, but not admitting it for so long. Do you think she cheated on Leo?
No. Wait, I guess, wasn't she back together with Penn by the time this happened? Or
so she was with Penn when she was filming Green Lantern with Ryan,
so
and then
later,
she got with Leo. And then after Leo, she goes to Ryan.
Okay, sorry, it's a lot to keep in my head. Apologies. These people date a lot.
It's a hell of a timeline.
No, but I do think one of the reasons Leo liked her is I think she was probably not super into him. I think he was her second choice, right? Guys love it when you don't like them that much. They love it. If you go on a first date with a guy and you're kind of meh, you think he's okay, but you don't make it seem like you're super into him, you don't lie and pretend you're into him, he's going to want to marry you. Like, actually, it's the best strategy if that's your goal in life.
The thing is, you've got to stay in that mode. You can't ever start really liking that.
Advice I received from an older female relative about marriage was this: it's very important that your husband loves you a little bit more than you love him.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from older friends as well.
Very important. And I think that in the case of Leo, she thought he was cute. He was probably a crush she'd had for a while. And she was like, yeah, I'll date you as my second choice. I think she probably always had eyes for Ryan, and he was her first choice. At the time, I think most of us thought, whose first choice is Ryan Reynolds, right? Obviously, if you could have Leo, you should have Leo. In retrospect, the girl's good at choosing them. She chose the better person.
I think I'm quite envious of her track record, I will say. And I love that she only had 5 months with Leo, because I don't think you need much more than that. And I like that she probably took her way out of it. And she got him at a good time, because things really shifted for him just after that. And by the way, you know, we shit on Ryan a lot, but Ryan's a pretty decent guy overall in the way he's been presented. Like, he does a ton of charity work over here in Canada. If you're listening somewhere else, he's pretty gorgeous. Like, he's a great actor, but there is always something smarmy about him, eh? But anyway, I'm trying to be fair.
He is smarmy, and we talk about that in our episode. And yes, it always feels like there might be an agenda behind doing the right thing. And listen, I prefer that to somebody who is smarmy and doesn't do the right thing. I prefer
he's done
that.
quite a lot. He's done quite a lot. He invests a lot in other businesses and that are up and coming. And then he also puts quite a bit towards charity, which I think is wonderful. But again, dig deep into that episode we did previously, because we talk about that at length. Now, this feels like a really good time to take a quick little break. Go check out her paparazzi shots with Leo in the grocery store, or him reenacting Romeo and Juliet, because those are a pleasure. And we will be right back.
Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is The Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is The Big Five? That's what The Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. Okay, so this is where things take another interesting turn because oddly, after the plantation scandal, Blake makes some very, shall we say, Caucasian choices, waspy choices, and attempts to settle into a kind of Martha Stewart mold. I don't know if I said this already, but Martha is her biggest inspo in life. And hey, we love Martha at the
love
Reheat,
Martha.
so I get it. Now, in 2014, Blake launches Preserve, a celebrity lifestyle website. It was part editorial, part online shop, part artisan marketplace. It was very goop. It was also very The Tig. If you remember, that was Meghan Markle's very brief flirtation with the lifestyle site. She also loves Martha.
Yes. Who doesn't? Now, Martha's great.
Absolutely. Although I think it's a very tall order to try and model yourself after her. That's where I'm always agog.
You can't do it because we did an episode on Martha and everyone should listen to it. But Martha is superhuman. Martha literally has quotes like, I don't get sick. That would be a waste of time. So no one can be Martha but Martha. Martha gets up at 4 a.m. every day. Martha is a hard work success story. She grew up with not very much and became a billionaire and then, went to jail, but then rebuilt her life. Love Martha. She should be everyone's hero.
Yeah, like these girls have nothing on Martha. I'm sorry to say. You got to be able to have the hustle in you. Now, let's put it this way, because if we look at it in terms of goop, instead of jade eggs, Blake was schlepping artisanal jam from a woman named like Clementine. Like it was a very different thing. I don't know who her customer base was because I think she kind of forgot about her audience. Her audience was us, essentially.
Her audience
right?
was like young girls who didn't buy jam.
Exactly.
She should have been selling like energy drinks to help you do your all-nighter at school, right? That's what she should have been shilling.
Like T-shirts or like going out tops. Like, I don't know.
Tops. Yeah, she would have been rich if she created a going out top line. So rich.
Shoe line, like something different. She catches up to this eventually, but we'll get back to that. Now, a lot of what was for sale was also insanely expensive. It was also a handmade Americana, essentially. So this is such an interesting pivot to me because she gets the plantation accusation, right? And then goes full Americana, which I think it leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I find it odd that this was the pivot. I don't think it was intentional, obviously, because who would make that choice? But I do think it's really questionable. It definitely didn't work for her. So let's get into it. She talked about wanting another professional identity beyond acting and how deeply she loved design entertaining, other than it being tough to pin down what exactly the website was because it was very confusing. It was also very dark. Like I remember the Tig was also very dark, like just literally visually there were black layouts. I didn't understand that. Yeah. The much bigger controversy though came when the site published a fashion feature invoking the, wait for it, antebellum South. That's right. The copy romanticized the aesthetic and quote unquote allure of the antebellum period. Wild. Like, there should be certain words that automatically trigger your copy editor, I would hope. Like, are you sure you want to romanticize the antebellum South? Although maybe there wasn't an editor. Maybe it was a team of all white people who are very sheltered and did not think twice. I'm puzzled.
But these are educated people. Like Blake Lively, I think what happened with getting married at the plantation, this is why I don't think she could have gotten into Stanford. I think she genuinely hadn't done the critical thinking to understand why that was a problem. And then when someone pointed it out, she was like, oh yeah, that would be a problem, right? I don't think she has the capacity to go to Stanford. The people who are editors at Vogue should be educated enough to understand that we shouldn't be romanticizing the antebellum South. This is just, I feel like there's a difference here.
But I also want to say too, though, I mean, so many of the people who have had plantation weddings and who are the WASPs that we talk about are so educated, right?
A lot of them do know.
Yeah, they're so well pedigreed. They're so wealthy. They come from generations of like legacy Stanford folk, legacy Harvard folk, and they still make this choice. I think you're partly right. And then I also think it's that, which is that some people just live in a bubble. They just don't think about it. Nobody's mentioning it to them. You could say that Ryan comes from Canada. We don't have plantation culture, if you will, like the States does, but still, he should know. I know, we grew up here. I don't think there's an excuse, really. I think it's just genuinely living in a bubble and nobody willing to say, hey, maybe that's a bad idea. Because if you see this giant white house with pillars out front in the South, I'm always doing a double take. I'm always going to be like, what happened there?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I mean, yes, absolutely. And Ryan also styles himself as an autodidact. So even though he didn't go and get a PhD, yes, he styles himself as the type of person who would understand these things.
Yeah, I know.
And should have known better. Like, that is part of his image, that he's a smart celebrity. So yes, it's always constantly disappointing and surprising.
But you know what's interesting too on that note is she's still the one who's getting more heat than him, right? And that's interesting because he's also, you could say, I think, more successful and a bigger face, a bigger name. He's older, but also he's a man. And I think there's something to be said about that. He's never been, I don't even want to use the word canceled, but he's never kind of been, let's say, put on pause in the way that Blake has for things like this. And I think that's really unfortunate. But anyway, she is the one to have now doubled down with Preserve, though. So Preserve eventually shut down in 2015. That was barely more than a year after launching. And again, I do think that's why Sarah pointed out, they don't have the hustle. The girls don't have the hustle like Martha. Anyway, Blake later acknowledged that there were many mistakes behind it and described closing the company as devastating because she had poured so much into it. Okay, girl. Okay.
It's been a year or not even a year. How much could you have poured into it?
She had a team. Like, I feel like the problem was she was not putting enough of herself into it, to be quite honest. She also said lessons from Preserve helped her build her future businesses differently, which brings us to Blake Lively, beverage mogul. And I think in this case, she's thinking more about who her audience is. So she launched in 2021, Betty Buzz, a line of non-alcoholic sparkling mixers. I remember the marketing was super cute. But I think I only even saw the drinks like last year, a couple of years ago in Canada. I don't think we got much of an influx over here. But this actually made sense, though, because Blake has famously said for years that she doesn't drink alcohol. She's never dabbled in drugs. Then in 2023, she launched Betty Booze, which does contain alcohol. Her kind of concept around this was that she's always made cocktails for friends. She loves the flavor and the hospitality aspect. Sure, I think it was just it made sense for like a sequel line. I don't think she needed this whole defense. But you know, the business has continued expanding in this instance. So she's got canned cocktails. She's got vodka iced teas. Betty Buzz, on the other hand, quietly went out of business last year. That's unfortunate, although, 4 years is a good run. I do think it's hard to make a go of non-alcoholic lines. And maybe she was ahead of her time, you could say, because now is the era really of soft hospitality. But I also got the sense that she was trying to follow in Ryan's footsteps. I mentioned earlier, he's an extremely successful investor. You might say more so than he is in his acting career. He's a big aviation gin supporter, for instance. You've probably seen the ads. But his success didn't seem to have lent to Blake's products. And I don't know if maybe they were trying to keep a separation, if maybe he did have his input, but it just hasn't flown in the same way. But hey, Betty Booze is still out there. We wish it well. Now, eventually, Blake changes direction again. And in 2024, she launches Blake Brown, her hair care company. Now, as Sarah and I have already established, that's a good mane. That's lion's mane, as Sarah said. This makes the most sense, I think. Unfortunately, though, I think maybe it would have been better if she launched this in the Gossip Girl era. I think the timing was a little off personally. But now then also for other reasons. So on paper, definitely super logical. She has had incredible hair since 2005. But part of the reason the timing also becomes a little unfortunate is the promotional cycle for the brand collides with It Ends With Us, the movie. And suddenly, all these branches in the Blake Lively Corporation, if you will, are about to collide in the wildest fashion. Now, before we get deeper into that, Sarah, I want to know, have you tried any of Blake's products? Do you feel like she has some skill here? Does she have some entrepreneurial skill? Is there any Martha to be found in Blake Lively?
I have never bought a Blake Lively product. I don't think I will. Have you bought a Blake Lively product, Steph?
No, no, I haven't. And I almost did buy her drink line, but it was so expensive.
Really? It was expensive because I don't know. I just don't think of her as a connoisseur of these types of things. So, I mean, I'm sure she has talent, but prove yourself before raising your prices, lady.
You know what? I'll say this. It was expensive for me in comparison to everything else I was seeing on the shelf. And if I'm buying a non-alcoholic drink, I'm not really looking to invest that much money into it. I think I'm not her customer. I am a drinker. But what I was sold by was, listen, I love good packaging. I really do. I'll buy things just because I like the packaging. Yeah. And the Betty franchise, the Betty machine is really beautifully designed. It's got like a pinup aesthetic, but I almost bought it for that reason because I was a fan of Blake. I wanted to try it. I didn't end up doing it. It was too pricey. I was in the States recently and I saw the Blake Brown line at Target and I was going to try it. And then, you know what? I was turned off by the packaging because it's very boring. It's all brown bottles. It's interesting too because it doesn't make it clear that it's Blake Lively's product that you're buying. Brown is her actual last name.
Yeah, her
and
government
she uses
name,
it as her middle name. Actually, I kind of feel like Blake Brown is sexier than Blake Lively. She should have gone with that. But I know
do too.
She wanted the family connection, so she stuck with Lively. But yeah, so I think that kind of didn't end up working in her favor, the name change. I will say though, here's one other thing that I like about Blake. She said that her quote unquote secret to her great hair is that she doesn't use conditioner. And it's not really a wild secret, but I will say I don't use conditioner either because I agree. It doesn't work.
What do you do
for my hair.
instead?
I will like oil my hair once a month.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I really kind of just let it do its own thing. And I feel like she kind of prescribes to the same logic. So I love that about you, Blake. We connect there. We're hair sisters.
What does Blake do? So does she oil her hair? I know some people, I think Catherine Zeta-Jones uses beer on her hair. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's concerning to me, I feel like.
A little bit, but if it works, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Blake's exact hair treatment. I think what she was trying to do with this line was get all of the right vitamins and the essential oils into a few key products, but it's still a process. She's still got multiple products that help you get that great hair that you're going to use before you get in the shower. Then there's the shampoo. Then it's what you use after. I'm too lazy to do all that.
This sounds like so much effort. And like Hollywood people do this because it's their job to be hot, right? But if no one's paying me to be hot, I don't have to be hot. I'm not gonna.
Same. I can't do it. I just use here's my secret, Pantene Pro-V. Okay. That's at every drugstore. It's $6 a bottle. Go get it. Okay. Now, before we jump into It Ends With Us, we got to talk Taylor Swift. Okay. And I know for a lot of you, this is the moment you've been waiting for. It's a big, big chapter in the Blake Lively book. And it does feel like an extension of this Martha character Blake put on, at least this friendship. Now, for nearly a decade, Blake was in Taylor's inner circle. And we know Taylor's got a lot of friends. So if you've made it to the inner circle, you're really in there. They appear to have become close around 2015. If you remember, very infamously, there were the photos from her 4th of July party where Tom Hiddleston was there when they were together. I loved that era. They went on double dates with Blake and Ryan. And if you remember, they were hanging out there. And Blake was around for all of that. I remember thinking at the time, does Ryan want to be there? This feels like such an odd group of people.
But did Tom Hiddleston? No. And that's the thing. I think Tom and Ryan didn't want to be there, but also wouldn't want to be with each other. So they were probably just miserable. Also, just apropos of nothing, Tom Hiddleston, you sexy beast. Like, just so attractive. I'm sad that dating Taylor Swift tanked your career. I'm sorry that happened because you're talented, you're handsome. Now you seem to be a really good partner to an actress I really like, Zaw Ashton. So
yes. Oh my God, Sarah, thank you for this. Bless you, because I love me some Tom Hiddleston. That was a sexy, sexy man.
So sexy.
And such an incredible actor. And you know, it is interesting. There's something to be said about Taylor Swift and her resounding impact on the people around her. You really, I think, need to think twice if you want to be in that inner circle, because it doesn't seem to impact a lot of people well. It's so fascinating to me how Tom's entire reputation shifted after this, and really unfair. I actually do think he really liked her, and I actually think he did want to be at that party. Remember, that was when he was wearing the TH loves TS or whatever. I don't remember what his shirts.
Yeah, and he had the tattoo, like the fake tattoo.
I think he was having a really good time. Okay. Unfortunately, I do think, and I know this because I actually enjoyed her music at the time. I mean, it was she was starting to lose me, but I remember her music very much clearly implying that he was just a rebound for her, which is quite brutal for poor Tom, because Tom to me seems like a dream guy. Like, that would be it for me.
She just has bad taste. If you aren't into Tom Hiddleston, he went to a Selena Gomez concert for her in his like weird seersucker suit, and he committed.
I know, it was a bit of a Chuck Bass there, but yeah, she also, because she apparently he was the rebound for Calvin fucking Harris, who is one of the most greasiest men in Hollywood. He's a DJ. Listen, do I like some of his music? Yes, I do, but that's beside the point. She has interesting taste. We know that. But yeah, thank you for that, Sarah. And by the way, if you haven't watched it, the newest season of The Night Manager dropped a couple of months ago on Amazon Prime. Shout out. Go check it out. He's excellent in it. Let's get him back some of his cred, okay? Now, okay, back to Blake. So Blake's kids even became a part of Taylor Swift lore. Their daughter, James's voice, opens her song called Gorgeous, and Taylor used the names of her daughters, James, Inez, and Betty, in the storytelling around folklore, which is like, that's intense. That's got to be a really close friendship, dare I say best friendship. Blake also directed Taylor's music video for I Bet You Think About Me, which is also really interesting because Blake hasn't done a ton of directing, and hopefully she does in the future. Now, for the love of God, Taylor is even all of the daughters' godmother. Like, that's, like, Sarah, that's so deep in. Like, it's
repeating a godmother that means something.
That means
something.
Yeah. Now, as recently as 2024, they were still publicly very close. Blake and Ryan were seen at several Eras Tour shows. Blake went to many of Travis Kelce's football games with Taylor, cheering like it's her whole world. So what changed? It's hard to say, but let's get into it. And we're going to go step by step because it is a lot. So if you're not sitting, please take a seat, pull over. Okay. Now it ends with us, the movie. We got to get back into this. The movie is based on Colleen Hoover's wildly best-selling novel. It follows Lily Bloom, who's played by Blake. She enters a relationship with the neurosurgeon named, and it's a goofy name, Ryle Kincaid. Now that character is played by Justin Baldoni. The story deals heavily with domestic violence and abuse. Justin also directed the film, and Blake was a very involved producer. There was a ton of hype around this film because Colleen, of course, has so many fans, and it was already gearing up to be a massive blockbuster. And it did do quite well, by the way, very, very well. And you know what's heartbreaking about this is I think it could have really relaunched Blake's career in a new way, and Justin's actually. So it's so unfortunate the way things went. But anyway, because there's also a sequel, I believe, and now that's not even going to happen with them, which is really too bad.
There's a sequel book, although there isn't a lot for the Justin Baldoni character to do.
We don't want him anyway. I was happy for Blake though if she got that second outing, but anyway, okay. So by the time the film premiered in August 2024, something was clearly wrong. How do we know this? Well, Justin was doing press without the cast. It was really interesting because they'd be doing press together. He'd often be alone or he'd be paired with Colleen. Now, a lot of the cast, if not all of the cast, also had unfollowed him online in this time. Now, to me, I'm seeing this. I'm already thinking there's something sketchy about this guy. Why would I be thinking something's off with Blake? Lots of people were thinking something's off with Blake. It's really odd that public opinion shifted really intensely against her before it ever changed against him. Part of this was rooted in how she promoted the film. So she was sporting florals. I can't believe I'm saying this. She was sporting florals a lot of the time in honor of her character being a florist. It's a big part of the movie. It's in the marketing of the movie. So in a lot of the red carpets, the press junkets, she's wearing florals. Fine. Like, okay, I think that's perfectly fine. Now, Justin was also talking more about the domestic violence element than Blake was. But here's what's fascinating about this. As we've learned since then, because a lot of the documentation around the movie and the contracts have come out, the movie studio had requested that everyone not delve deeply into the abuse because they didn't want to scare off audiences. Isn't this interesting? Because even now still, people take issue with Blake for not talking about it enough and for wearing florals, which they felt like, I don't know, diluted the presentation of the movie. I still don't get it.
Listen, I think Blake is a professional. I think if you give her instructions, she will follow them. She has media training. I think the studio put her in an unfair position because it does look bad if you're a progressive woman not to talk about the TV angle. It looks terrible on you. And so I think that was really unfair to her. And I do wish she'd pushed back more and said, listen, guys, in the post-Me Too era, I can't do a movie about DV and not talk about DV. Like if she'd said the florals, let's make that a symbol. Florals a symbol for survival and for getting through defee, for let's make that a symbol for survivors, right? Like wear your florals in solidarity with survivors. There have been lots of movements like that where people wear a certain thing in solidarity. So I feel like that actually could have taken off and would have been good for the movie. Good for the movie. It could have gone viral. Like go see this movie in your florals, then afterwards find a shelter to donate money to, right? I think that could have been a great campaign. And also it would have been way better for Blake's image.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, Sarah. I love that. I hadn't even thought of that. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, because even when you're presenting a movie on domestic abuse, you have to think about your image and your branding and how this is going to look for you. It is a big ick, but it is how Hollywood works. This is not the first time that's happening. And I think you're so right. I think maybe she let herself down a little on that, and her team let herself a little on that. I think part of the reason Justin went ahead is because he doesn't have the tenure that Blake does. So of course Blake was trying to play it safe. Women don't get the chances that men do, but Justin Baldoni, I'm kind of amazed at how many opportunities he's had in Hollywood so far. And he is interesting because he's built a massive reputation on being a feminist man. That already rubbed me the wrong way. I know a lot of people are big fans of his podcast. Listen, I believe it or not, because I was a big Jane the Virgin fan. I thought he was delicious back in the day. I wanted to be a big Justin Baldoni fan. I tried listening to the podcast. I was put off after just a few episodes, because I found he sounded to me like, what's the way to put it? I just didn't buy it from him. Something
it was disingenuous.
Off.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I'm very proud to say I was always Team Michael on Jane the Virgin. I wanted her to end up with Michael. I think Michael was the better choice.
I was too.
Oh, you were? Too. Okay. All right. That's great.
Listen, I thought Justin was super hot, but I was Team Michael if I had to choose. A day in, day out girl. Yes, always.
Yeah. Team Michael. Also, Team Petra. By the end, I kind of didn't like Jane as much because she was so sanctimonious with everyone.
Became a bit deluded. I loved Petra. My God, I love
Petra. Season 1 Jane. I love season 1 Jane. It's just, she just becomes... And it's not her, it's not the actress's fault. It is the way they write the character to be quite humorless by the end.
Totally agreed. I mean, you know what? In some ways, like, Justin really was his character for some of the show, like a bit ego driven, I felt anyway. Yeah, God, Team Michael, absolutely. That still kills me. Anyway, okay, so now as this is happening, they're out on the red carpet, they're promoting this movie. The internet started pulling up old Blake clips. Now, I remember sitting at home being like, what's happening? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? She's getting a lot of heat. It didn't totally seem deserved, right? It felt out of proportion. One of the biggest clips that was rolled out was an old interview from 2016 where a reporter congratulated Blake on her pregnancy by saying something like, "Congrats on your little bump." Blake responded by congratulating the reporter on her little bump. Ugh.
It's not nice.
No, and the reporter later said the interaction made her feel super uncomfy, obviously. I mean, I would have cried, I think.
I would have too. I would have too.
Oh my God, take me out. Now, the other interviews that resurfaced were people thought Blake seemed dismissive or rude as well. It became a full pile-on. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't what happened between Blake and Justin. It miraculously shifted into, has Blake secretly been awful this entire time? So here's the thing. She does come off like a dick in quite a few of these clips. We've talked about it in previous episodes as well. But mind you, I hadn't seen a lot of these clips over the years too. So I don't know if they just got buried. A lot of it was like independent press. Just didn't catch it. And so she doesn't look great in it. She doesn't. That's the truth. But I do think there's something to be said for the fact that this was about how these two were on the red carpet and doing press junkets. But suddenly, weirdly, the focus miraculously shifts to Blake. Now, the backlash was intense. In December 2024, Blake filed a civil rights complaint and sued Justin and others connected to the movie. She alleged that she experienced inappropriate behavior and sexual harassment during production, and that after raising her concerns, Justin and his team retaliated against her by orchestrating a campaign designed to damage her reputation, starting with the internet. I believed this immediately because I've never seen such a swift turn on someone. Justin has strongly denied her allegations, but what I want to emphasize is that if you read through all the documents and discovery, it's so clear that Justin and his team did at least attempt to orchestrate a campaign against her. There's conversations of them plotting, him requesting she be targeted at certain times when he was frustrated with her. He's also admitted to quite a few shocking instances of sexual harassment toward her, which is wild. this somehow is still overshadowed and I don't get it. And it's even darker because, again, he built a brand on being a feminist. I think it's so sickening. It is disturbing to me the way he was talking to Blake. Like, for instance, I'll give you a few quick examples, but if you want to dive deeper, I encourage going through the documents yourself because some of it is graphic. But he would talk to her about like wanting to see her breastfeed her child because she'd just given birth around that time. He would kind of awkwardly go into her trailer when he knew that she was breastfeeding. There's a scene where she gives birth in the movie and he invited friends to be on set for that moment, even though it was supposed to be a cleared set. There's ways he talks about her body and he tells her how hot she is that are so inappropriate. Mind you, he's a married man and he says so many things to her and there's evidence of it that suggests he was ready to cheat with this girl, which is also fascinating to me considering where we are now. He's a married man. Like he's a wife guy too, by the way. Like he's talked about his wife endlessly, like he worships her. Meanwhile, he's off like on his knees for Blake Lively. He sounds like such a perv in these documents.
Wasn't he trying to like convert her to the Baha'i faith too?
Probably. Well, that's another thing. So, and interesting for her because there's not many celebrities that we know of who are involved with the Baha'i faith apart from Justin and Penn Badgley.
I know. She's had to work with both of them, dated one
Poor
of them.
Blake.
I know, but I just find it so bizarre where it's like if you're Justin Baldoni and you're trying to recruit someone to the Baha'i faith, wouldn't she be the last person? Because she was exposed to it through Penn and she clearly didn't convert. So I don't understand why you think that's a good potential addition.
You know, he's ego driven and he was the director and that probably added even more air to that head. And he thought, okay, Penn can't do it, but I can do it.
I'm sexier than Penn Badgley.
Exactly.
I can do it.
And I think he saw it not just as Blake, but as Blake and Ryan. If I can pull them in, that's like the ultimate. And hey, by the way, Wayfair is his production company. That's who Blake is also suing here. That company is partly, like a lot of the people involved are in the Baha'i faith, and they've said that they were hoping to recruit some people, like members of the production company have said this.
Yes, they were proselytizing, which is the thing everyone knows you're not supposed to do that in the workplace. That is the most taboo thing, sexual harassment and proselytizing people to join your religion. No one should ever be doing either of those things.
No, and can you imagine, like you're filming this really difficult role. There's quite a few scenes of abuse. She does have a birthing scene. It didn't seem like an easy role to me. And by the way, I'm not a big Blake Lively fan these days. I'm not trying to go hard on defending her. I just feel this is the truth. But imagine you're in that position and you're being proselytized to, and you also have this man who's actively being perverse around you. It's foul.
Yeah, it is really foul. The whole thing just feels really uncomfortable. And listen, he was in this movie because he weirdly bought the rights to it, right? So if she wanted to make this project, Blake didn't really have a choice but to work with him. And he made himself the star and the director, which again speaks to definitely a huge ego.
And he was probably involved with casting her. Like he loves to put on this show now that he has no interest in her, but he had a lot of interest in her. And it also almost sounds like a scorned man, you know, a rejected man getting vengeance now. Anyway, he filed a countersuit, and in the countersuit, he argued that Blake and Ryan had used their power and influence to take creative control of the film and then weaponized allegations against him when their relationship broke down. He filed a $400 million lawsuit against Blake, Ryan, and others alleging defamation and other wrongdoings. He also sued the New York Times over its reporting. To me, just the fact that he sued the paper, plus he's filing a $400 million lawsuit, paints him as such a goddamn clown. But anyway, sir, you've already touched on this a little bit, but I want you to give me at least a little bit of a hint as to why you think Justin is still coming off as the cleaner party.
Well, I mean, I think that he definitely is paying for there to be, or someone in his orbit is paying, and this is, okay, allegedly, this is my theory, paying for there to be a smear campaign online against Blake, right? You can pay for that kind of web traffic. This is likely what happened with Amber Heard, right? When she and Johnny Depp had their legal proceedings. So I think it's part of it. I also think, like, listen, Blake Lively is in a really difficult situation because a lot of people never liked her for many reasons. A lot of people conflate her with Serena van der Woodsen. They didn't like her. There are a lot of moms on the playground who will say, I never liked Serena. I always liked Blair. It's not, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It is not a feud with Leighton Meester. She's not in a feud with Leighton Meester. Blake Lively being in a feud with Justin Baldoni and losing that feud does nothing to help Leighton Meester. Nothing.
Blake is not Serena. Serena is not Blake.
Exactly. So I think that's part of it, why she didn't have a lot of allies coming to defend her. I think that she is, it seems like to me, I described her like this a couple weeks ago, a girl's girl who looks like a guy's girl. Right? She has guy's girl energy, but I think she's a girl's girl. Look at her projects. They're almost always for the girls, right? Like
gorgeously put. I do think so. And I think even the fact that she's still such good friends with the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants group says everything. Because those women, and by the way, like they don't have to be loudly feminist like Justin fucking Baldoni. Like they are so progressive, all three of them.
All of
and
them.
I do not, and they've been by her side. And so like, I just don't see. Yeah, I don't think she's the guy's girl people think she's. I think that's such an astute point, Sarah. And thank you for bringing up Amber Heard, because there were rumors at the time that there was also an orchestrated campaign against her online, which is really scary. And now that we're in the advent of AI, I fear for what the future of that is going to look like, because it's usually women who are on the receiving end of this abuse. It's so, and by the way, again, like it's almost like the movies. Some events in the movie are repeating in real life between these two people. It's really scary. Now, I got to bring it back to Taylor. I got to bring it back to Taylor. So speaking of allies, as Sarah mentioned, her two big allies at this point are Ryan and Taylor. So in Justin's account of the behind the scenes creative battle over the movie, he claimed there was an incident where he went to Blake's house and Ryan and a quote, mega celebrity friend, obviously understood to be Taylor, were also there. Justin argued he felt pressured by the presence and influence of these super powerful people to accept Blake's version. To be fair, I can imagine. Like, I feel like if I'm being stared down by Blake, Ryan, and Taylor, I'd be like, I have to do what they say, although he's also the director. But anyway, at one point, Blake also apparently, and this is not necessarily in this conversation, but in texts about this, we'll get into the texts, but she referred to Ryan and Taylor as her dragons, like envisioning herself as Khaleesi, a la Game of Thrones. A lot of people feel like this is probably what heated up Taylor, because why would Taylor be someone's dragons? She'd be Khaleesi. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I also think it's just embarrassing for all of them.
She offended Taylor's vanity. This is what she did. And honestly, there were so many other references. Say, we're a real life Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, or she's my real life Blair Waldorf. Blair Waldorf is plenty scary, right? And honestly, I feel like, and I've never felt the friendship was genuine on Taylor's side. I felt like, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I do think in Taylor's mind, because she was the perfect age to watch The Sister of the Traveling Pants and Gossip Girl, that she grew up watching Blake, and in her head, I think she identifies as a Blair. I don't think she is, but I think she identifies as one. And I think she was like, I can be friends with Serena IRL. And then she befriended her, right? And I think that was kind of, she was offended because everyone who's seen Gossip Girl knows Blair is the star of Gossip Girl. So I think that this comment really offended Taylor's main character energy. I think Blake also has main character energy. I think everyone in Hollywood does. Everybody, every single person in the entertainment industry. And it seems like Taylor just could not get over this.
Do you know what's so wild? It's only now you saying that it occurred to me that, of course, Taylor probably, I think we know this, watched Gossip Girl and probably also was a fan of Blake's. That never even occurred to me. I always thought it was Blake who was the fan, but no, of course Taylor was a fan too.
I think it went the other way.
Yeah,
and I think
that never occurred to me.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, Ariana Grande, I think, tried to recruit Leighton Meester on the red carpet to create her version of this friendship. Right?
Good reference.
Leighton just rejected that and kind of mocked her on the red carpet. Claims she didn't, but she was clearly mocking her.
Well, and let me also just say too, because here's the thing. I mean, you mentioned she should have used a better analogy, definitely, but also, you never text anyone thinking these texts are going to be exposed to the whole world. Because let me say this, especially in the heyday of Game of Thrones, it's not a crazy thing in any sense to say my friends are my dragons. I actually think if we look at it in that way, it's kind of sweet. Like, if you do have main character energy, of course it's going to piss you off, but she had very good intentions. I don't think this was meant to be this ego-driven, ludicrous thought. It's just
it's a one-off comment.
Yeah.
It's a one-off, right? It's not how she actually feels about Taylor. It's not what she would say about Taylor in a wedding speech or a eulogy, right? But I think that it shows Taylor's ego is very, very sensitive.
I agree. Now, Taylor was eventually subpoenaed by Justin's legal team in 2025, and I bet you she lost her shit the day that subpoena came. Her rep stressed that Taylor didn't make the movie, was not involved in casting or creative decisions, didn't score it. She did license a song for it. That's about it. Which, by the way, also is pretty huge that she licensed a song for the movie that Blake had requested for it. Like, this was really, before all this shit happens, they were kind of like a dream team if it comes to box office numbers. Again, such a shame it's not. It fell apart. But anyway, the subpoena was later withdrawn, although the court did allow relevant communications between Taylor and Blake to be sought in discovery. This is how we ended up with a lot of the text messages between them. And there were a lot of reports that Taylor was deeply unhappy about being dragged into the whole mess. But by January 2026, a lot of these private texts were public. You can go through them now if you want to. They're endless. I got to say, both of them come off very annoying. Like, they come off like regular friends. Very normal, but they both seem very annoying. Now, in one exchange, Blake reaches out to Taylor because she worries she's been a bad or self-involved friend while she's dealing with this entire lawsuit and court drama. And Taylor responds that Blake does seem different. And she essentially says that Blake's messages had started sounding weirdly formal and that she missed her, quote, funny, dark, normal speaking friend. Other unsealed messages showed that Taylor had, at least privately, been really supportive of Blake during this entire drama. And she also had said negative things about Justin, again, like as a friend would do. So we know that Taylor was on Blake's side. Now, by early 2026, reporting also indicated that she wanted to stay far away from the legal drama. Again, because of the text being released, this is the most, like, I think we've gotten inside Taylor's life, those text messages. We know she loves being protected legally, this woman. And so to be exposed in this way, I imagine one of the hardest moments for her. But okay, let's get into a bit more before I give my opinion. But the most symbolic evidence that this friendship is, at minimum, I think nowhere near it once was, is her stepping away like this and then getting married to Travis Kelce just a couple of weeks ago in New York at MSG. Massive wedding, 1,000 guests, and yet no room for Blake or Ryan or her godchildren. I remember, God, wasn't it just like a short while ago, we thought one of the daughters would surely be a flower girl. Well, they didn't even get into the building. Now, Sarah, I want to know your ruling here. How do we feel about this? What do we make of it? Can a friendship recover from personal texts becoming discovery publicly?
I was talking about this a couple weeks ago with a friend, and I said to her, is like, if you get sued and our texts become public, I'll still be your friend. And she said the same to me. And same stuff. Like, if our texts,
thank you, Sarah,
become public because of legal proceedings, I will still be here for you. And there is a rumor I've seen, and I think like the Daily Mail, that Blake didn't want to go to the wedding, that she was invited and didn't go. I don't believe that for a second at all. I don't know who leaked that. I think it might have been Taylor's camp, because I feel like there were a lot of people, a lot of Taylor fans are now very vehemently Team Blake and are joining the Justin Baldoni crew because they feel like they have to be in order to keep liking Taylor. Otherwise, what she did is just beyond cruel, right? Because she snubbed a woman and her children, right? The children with whom she has a relationship. So I think that there was also a chorus of people, like us, who are feminists, who probably like Taylor Swift fine, but were a little bit concerned about this and thought that it's hard to reconcile her belief that she is pro-woman with the way she's treated Taylor. And so I think that this rumor was leaked for that reason. Like, I'm going to say this. I don't really feel comfortable with my daughter seeing Taylor Swift as a role model if she's going to abandon a friend who was sexually harassed. I really don't, actually. And my Taylor Swift loving daughter is probably going to keep listening to her music, but I don't think I would ever say grow up to be like Taylor.
Yeah, I know. It's I've always said I'm not a big Taylor fan. I did love her music up to a point, and I get sucked into the gossip. Why not? But I even thought that she wouldn't go this hard. I really thought she wouldn't go this far. And I'm very disappointed. I don't know, this massive wedding of our lifetime really unveiled and exposed things. And I think the darkest part of it is that I know for her, and just generally speaking, part of the decision has to just be branding, and you've got to be thinking about press. And so I feel like she knew that if she did this, it's going to reflect so poorly on Blake and Ryan. And especially as Blake is still going through this conflict with Justin, why would you do such a thing? Like, I think it's really hurtful. And I just don't understand it. That if this is the reason she's pulled away from her, you are not a good friend. Like, I think what Blake is going through, no matter how you feel about her, is horrific. I don't know if her career is ever going to be able to come back from this. Like, I can't imagine how she's making it through day to day. I'd be in bed in tears every day, honestly. Like, it's scary. If you just type her name into TikTok or Twitter, what comes up, it's scary. So quite hateful. And as we've discussed so far in this past hour, Blake's brand is everything. And it's really hit a torpedo. And I wonder sometimes, is it more because of Justin Baldoni or is it more because of Taylor Swift? Like, how do these two things interact? I just think if you are a really good friend, they seemed like best friends based on all of this. I would never abandon my friend when they're going through something like this. And I wouldn't like for my private texts to be exposed to the world. That might be tough for me, but I'm not going to back away from you. I don't know. I'm puzzled. I'm puzzled, Sarah. And you know what's interesting too is that Blake and Ryan were out at I think one of their daughters had like an equestrian
Betty, yeah,
namesake for the drinks line. She had something going on. They were in Lake Placid in upstate New York, so there were photos of them out and about. And you know what? That's a good mom, because for me, I would not want to be out in public that day.
Yeah, she put her kids first. Like, listen, she seems like a totally decent and good mother. I think you're completely right. The fact that she didn't take a mental health day and still went to the equestrian show knowing she'd be papped, whether she wanted to be or not, I think is just a testament to how much she actually cares about supporting her kids. And Taylor, I understand why you were upset about the text being leaked, but that's not Blake's fault. That's Justin's fault. And I don't understand why she can't see it that way.
Okay, this feels like a good time to take a quick little break, and we're going to be right back, and then we'll get more into how these two are going to detangle from Her Highness Taylor Swift.
Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is the Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is the Big Five? That's what the Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say, because this is where things have actually landed. In June 2025, a judge dismissed Justin's massive, ludicrous defamation lawsuit against Blake and Ryan and others. The court found, among other things, that key statements Blake made through her civil rights complaint were actually legally protected. So that was a major legal win for Blake. Then in April 2026, a judge significantly narrowed her case. So that means her sexual harassment claims were dismissed. The ruling involved legal questions, including the employment laws under which she actually had brought those claims originally. So basically what this means is it's kind of like there was a loophole that made those claims invalid in the way that they were filed. It doesn't mean that those things didn't happen. They just were not going to get assessed because of the way this case moved. But her retaliation-related claims were allowed to continue. And just weeks before the remaining case was supposed to go to trial, they settled. So in May 2026, Blake and Justin's sides reached an agreement ending the central litigation. There was no trial. I think they were all afraid of that happening because, of course, even more would be revealed at that point, and also it would become a massive public circus more than it already was. Lest we forget, when they were going to court, they were also oddly color coordinated. Do you remember that, Sarah?
Yeah, I know it must have been accidental, but
Wild.
Yeah, it's so strange. But that's the thing. That's why I think she sometimes works with a stylist, because I think the stylist probably was like, well, what would be the best court look that is, it looks like you're contemporary, but it's not too trendy, right? Like, I really think that they were working with stylists who had a similar strategy in mind. That's why I think she sometimes works with a stylist.
You know what? And let me say, I actually feel like now she has been working with the stylist, but I'm going to go in the other direction because it's taken such an ugly turn. Her stylist has been awful in the past couple of years. I'm like, are you now working with a stylist? What's changed? Or were you working with one before? Now you're with a terrible one. I don't know. But you make a good point because they were all, including Justin's wife, dressed in green and pink. That is wild. That is wild. They all look good. I'll say that much.
Yeah, they look great.
Now, it hasn't completely ended. So there's still a fight over money. After the settlement, a judge ruled that Blake could recover legal fees connected to defending herself against Justin's failed lawsuit. Blake's lawyers then requested about $7.5 million in attorney's fees, plus more than $500,000 in costs. So we're looking at about $8 million altogether. I actually thought it would have been even more. Justin has challenged that amount as excessive and asked the judge to deny or reduce it. As of today, the fee remains unresolved. It's still sitting there. And if you're asking who won, well, Justin's massive lawsuit was dismissed. So were many of Blake's harassment claims, which I think were very valid. But when there's a settlement, it's hard to say. And a lot of the time in Hollywood, that's what happens because people don't want more of their private situation exposed, right? Now, if you're still on the fence about what happened, I encourage you to read the court documents. Yet again, we will link them in the show notes. You could spend days going through them, but again, trigger warnings all around. Be prepared when you go through them. Now, I think when you look at them, it's pretty clear she was being pretty severely harassed. And also that Justin's an asshole. He also just sounds really unkind. And even the cast, by the way, has since come out and defended her. And I think that says more than anything. If your whole team who worked with you is on your side, doesn't that say something? Anyway.
Yes, that definitely says something. I mean, Jenny Slate, also Liz Plank, who co-hosted that weird band show that Justin Baldoni started. She came out in defense of Blake and supported Blake.
That says a lot.
So, yeah, it does say a lot.
Yeah. And by the way, Jenny Slate, I trust her on anything. That girl will tell you the truth. Now, here's what I wanted to get back to, because I think this also says quite a bit. So after the news dropped that Blake clearly was not invited to Taylor's wedding, that is when Justin and his wife, Emily, dropped a video, a very melodramatic video, talking about healing from what they described as a traumatic experience and referencing the pain and injustice that they felt going through this conflict with Blake. I think it's really fascinating that they waited to make a statement until that moment, and they were probably betting on it, hoping for it, because obviously at that point so much of Taylor's world is turning on Blake, because if Taylor turns on them, they turn on them. And so it's a good time for them in the press to then also double down and also pile on to Blake. That is so scary. Now, meanwhile, I do think it's interesting that Blake hasn't made any public announcements. She hasn't said anything about any of this, which I do think is the way to go, especially because she's got a tough road ahead now. Like, the overexposure is intense, and I do think her career's been derailed quite a bit, as has her reputation. But I do think, ultimately what we learn from Blake is how intensely a brand can shift, right? Hers was an all-American one. It was one of aspiration. Again, even if you didn't align with it, that's what it was. It worked for her for quite a while, but then a few unfortunate choices kind of shifted her audience. And this is the big thing. And we've said this with a lot of people we've covered on The Reheat, but she's an interesting case because she is a millennial. When she was starting out, and even when they got married way back in 2012, the internet was not quite what it is even now, like even what it would become in 2 years. Because imagine back then, even when Preserve came out, oh my God, she would have been destroyed online, right? Even Meghan Markle with the TIG, they are lucky they didn't have social media the way we do now. But then fast forward to now, social media has caught up to their mistakes, right? They're bringing them back from the past to litigate them now. So they don't live up to it. And Ryan can get away with it, I think, because he's a man. He's Deadpool. He's too big to fail. But Blake, it doesn't have that. She doesn't have the talent. She doesn't have the success at that level. I don't know if she can come back from this, but I actually do hope she does, just because I think this was so unfair. Anyway, we know, once people stop buying the fantasy that you're selling, there is an expiry date on your brand. I think that's the big learning lesson from all of this. But Sarah, I want to know from you, how do you think Blake made out from all of this?
Yeah, I think she's in a really difficult position professionally. And listen, financially, she'll be okay. She's married to Ryan Reynolds. If she just wants to be one of the wives of Westchester, like the women on Your Friends and Neighbors, she absolutely could do
It's a
that.
good wag. Yeah, good wag.
Yeah, well, having watched Your Friends and Neighbors, the Olivia Munn character frames someone for murder, and people still hang out with her in season 2. Spoiler alert. So I feel like people won't battle an eye regarding Blake if it's anything like it is on Apple TV. And I know she lives in Westchester.
That's so true.
I don't know if that's a realistic portrayal of Westchester social norms or not. I'm hoping it's not. But I think she'll be okay in certain circles. Like, I think the hedge fund wives are going to disown her? No. I think she'll probably have friends. Like, she'll have her mom friends at the kids' school. But still, that's kind of lonely. And it also is hard to have people slandering you online all the time and saying how much they hate you and spewing this hatred. The psychological impacts, I think, should not be understated. That is genuinely traumatic. And I know she has a lot of privileges in a lot of other ways, but I do feel sorry for her. I was heartbroken when she was not invited to this wedding. And I texted you and I said, like, I'm literally eating ice cream on her behalf. I'm so sad right now that
Like,
she is not at this wedding.
Me too. And I don't even like this friendship. I want Blake to get away from her, and I was devastated.
I know. It just seems so needlessly cruel, so extra. I don't know. I think, as I have said before, her path is to be a supporting player and to prove she is the girl's girl, just to be the girl's girl for the next few years and not try to be the star, to try to lift up the women she's worked with. So she could do another Traveling Pants because that's an ensemble. She could definitely do that. Maybe the third one will happen. And America Ferrera, I think, has so much goodwill in Hollywood now that she could make that happen if she wanted to do it. So Blake could be part of that project. I also think there's going to be a Gossip Girl reboot. I think it will be centered on Blair because it will be based on the new Blair novel. And if Blake does that, I think there's an opportunity for her to play to her strengths because she can be the antagonist. I think she should play the new Georgina, right? It should be that Blake has kind of lost her way. I mean, Serena. They're the same person to me. Serena has lost her way. Her marriage to Dan didn't work out. She's kind of a neglectful mom, but she appears every once in a while, kind of like her dad was, right? Would just show up. That Baldwin would show up to stir things up. And she can come to be the Georgina equivalent because Michelle Trachtenberg sadly and tragically died. And she can be the antagonist and then leave. So she could do maybe a quarter of the episodes while the project centers Leighton, and she can do all the pressing. I was so happy to come and support my friend Leighton Meester, who really deserves this. It's a great show. So I think this is her path back, going to the IP that made her a household name.
Well, you know, I always love your Gossip Girl soapbox, so I hope we get to see that. And I agree with you. I do think that would be a good way back for her. And I want to see her play like an evil parent. Now, this does bring us to our final segment. Hindsight is 2026, where we choose the one moment that we might have handled differently if we were the subject of this story. Sarah, what would that be for you? I'm so curious.
Oh, man. So many. It's not really her fault, but I think that when it comes to It Ends With Us, the hill I would have died on was just saying, it's about DV. I'm going to talk about DV. I would have just said to the studio, listen, when it came to the Barbie movie, they did not shy away from the feminist discussion, right? And yes, DV is darker than what Barbie was about, but the world is ready for these discussions. And victims of DV deserve to have this dialogue be very public. So I think she should have turned the flower into a symbol of just survival for people with DV, because, you know, when a flower fades and loses its petals, they come back, right? So you can survive. So I think it's actually a beautiful and I think it's a good symbol. I think it's beautiful. I think you can do a lot with it. And I think if you could say, like, wear your florals in support of survivors of DV and let's all raise money and just do a whole bunch of campaigns for this. If she just made this her issue and made it really her bread and butter too. I mean, I don't think we should just use charity for marketing purposes, but she could have done a lot of good if she'd made this an issue that she is a spokesperson for year round all the time. And I also think that it could have turned her into a feminist symbol, which, let's face it seems like she's wanted to be that for a long time. Like, that's what she's trying to do with this lawsuit with Justin Baldoni. Her lawyers, every time you hear them, they're always hyping up the fact that she is doing this for other women. So that's the thing. I think she wants to be known as a girl's girl. She wants to be a feminist symbol. Unfortunately, as I said before, she looks like a guy's girl. So it's really hard for people to see her that way.
Yeah, it's really too bad. Well, you know what I would do, and this is a big one, but I would have never become friends with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of the reason people were so hard on her ass this whole time is because of that friendship. I'm not saying none of that would have happened if it weren't for Taylor. Absolutely not. That's on Justin Baldoni. And frankly, with that, there's really nothing that Blake could have done to prevent that. That is not in her hands. That is on that piece of shit's hands. It ends with us was supposed to be a massive thing for Blake. It just totally went in the other direction. But I think Taylor has led to a lot, or their friendship has led to a lot of the bad press that Blake has gotten. And I think it must be devastating, just personally, to have to now deal with the end of this relationship. Her daughters have lost their godmother, which I think is so cold and brutal.
That's so upsetting. It's so upsetting to just lose someone from your life who was a foundational part of your life. Yeah. And something that people pointed out online that I think is really important to remember is that Blake stood through her friend Taylor when Taylor went through the Kim Kardashian cancellation situation, right? And I think in retrospect, we all need to remember that Kim might have had a point. And one thing I would like to see, because I actually think Kim is a girl's girl. I think above everything, Kim is a girl's girl. I would love to see her reach out to Blake and say, want to be a spokesperson for one of my campaigns?
Skims!
Because Blake looks great in underwear.
Oh my God, sir, that's genius.
And I actually think it would be great for Kim's fan base, because Kim's fan base is not super pro Taylor because of this lore. And so now they can embrace Blake. So I actually think this is really good marketing. Everyone will be talking about it. And Kim Kardashian is nothing if not a marketing genius. So I feel like this idea has already occurred to her.
Sarah, that's so wonderful and delicious. And I'll be riding on this high all day thinking about that, because that's a dream collab. And as you also have previously suggested, if Ryan and Blake want to become best friends, double date with Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau, Katy Perry being one of Taylor's many rivals, that's another delicious pairing that I'd love to see. But yeah, I mean, listen, she can set fire to the friendship in that way, or just forget about this girl. Please just stay away from her, rebuild, and maybe focus more on a narrower lane. Like maybe focus on independent film, maybe directing, get behind the camera again. Like I think she can definitely rebuild. It's just going to look different. And I think part of the reason she can do it is because she's married to Ryan Reynolds, who is so massive. But yeah, and I'm good with her marrying that man, but I just wish she never got into friendship with Taylor, because also that's when I turned on Blake. And when I say turned on, I just mean like I fell less in love with her because I was a fan, you know, and then I was like, oh, you're going to be friends with Taylor? That can't bode well. And now look where we are. Not you knew. Say I called it.
No, you did. You called it. And maybe another thing that occurs to me is, should they just move to Vancouver? Should they just relocate back to Ryan's hometown? Because lots of wealthy people live there. They have good schools.
And then imagine if Meghan and Harry were still there too. That could be thrilling.
Okay, she needs to make friends with Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle and Blake Lively are soulmates. They have so much in common. So much. These people will be best friends. How has this not happened? How are they not in each other's lives? So I don't get it. I don't get it. I think that these people are kindred spirits. I don't think anyone would understand Blake like Meghan, and no one would understand Meghan like Blake. Just let's make it happen. Guys, please phone each other. Phone each other. You need each other.
And that is our end of our episode. By the way, super-sized episode for you guys, because we know you love hearing about and dissecting all of this drama. So we're happy to bring it to you. Thank you to all of you for listening. You can listen to more of The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me on Instagram at Canada Horse. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Instagram and Threads at Sahagian Sarah. And if you liked this podcast, we would really appreciate it. And I know every podcast says this, but we would appreciate it. Actually, if you would please rate, review, and subscribe. We know that you're all busy. If you can take some time out of your day to do that, it would be very meaningful for us. And if you'd like us to keep growing, you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat. That is another really great way to help us make the show sustainable for years to come. Thanks for listening.
Hi, Donovan Woods here.
Hey, it's me, Tom Power.
We're here to tell you about our brand new podcast. It's called The Big Five.
So, Donovan, what is the Big Five?
Yeah, exactly. What is the Big Five? That's what the Big Five is all about. Every week, Tom and I will sit down with a special guest and dive into new topics, debating things like, what are the Big Five farm animals? The Big Five types of hat? The Big Five guys named Paul?
Martin, Revere, Mezcal, McCartney, John Paul II.
The debate is settled by a listener from somewhere across the country. It's like a game show.
It is a game show.
The Big Five, available now wherever you get your podcasts.